You ever wonder what happens to your leadership skills when your nervous system is out of whack? It ain't pretty, and neither are those decisions made on zero clarity and 100% stress. Welcome back to Beyond Adjustments, the podcast that doesn't just talk about back pain. We're here for every shift, every adjustment, and breakthrough that helps you live your fullest life. I'm your host, Amin Saeed, and today, you're in for a treat. Today's guest, he's someone who doesn't just adjust spines. He adjusts futures. I said it, yeah, I know, bold, but hear me out. He's a former powerhouse educator, so good they tried to pull him into a district leadership role. But he chose a different path. He's now the founder of Nexus Family Chiropractic in Dana Point, California, Dr. Daniel Kimbley. We're diving into nervous system health, leadership, clarity, and why the science behind stress might just be the missing link to unlocking your best life. Let's jump into it. Dr. Daniel, first off, man, welcome back to Beyond Adjustments. So glad to have you back on the show.
I mean, thank you, brother. Thanks for having me. Honored to be back. The first time was so fun. So to be back on so quickly is just, it's special, man. It means a lot, for real.
Yes, sir. No, and honestly, the honor's all mine. So I appreciate you accepting the invitation, but I can't wait to get a little bit deeper than we did the last time, just to talk about some of the topics we spoke about in our first podcast, but just getting a little bit deeper into those conversations. So I'm really looking forward to it. But so let's set the stage, right? You've been super passionate about this topic lately, or maybe even from the start. But can you explain why nervous system health isn't just kind of a health thing, but a leadership thing too?
Yeah. Oh man, there's so many places to go. It's so open-ended. I think this is what I think a lot of people think that leadership comes from. It's like some magical thing that they are just endowed with, some people when they're born. But it's just a skill. And all of the skills that make someone successful are housed in a very specific part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. And so from like when we talk about nervous system health, what I am primarily interested in is how the prefrontal cortex houses these certain skills: grit, willpower, perseverance. The list could go on and on. But those things make somebody a better leader. And so nervous system health, yes, it's about health and like how your physiology works. And we can kind of talk about some of that stuff if you want. But really, to me, why I get fired up about chiropractic and the brain and the prefrontal cortex is because we're helping people. Like if someone's a better leader, that transforms not just the lives of the people we adjust, but I mean, it ripples through families, it ripples through workplaces. And it's just a noble, that's what BJ and Didi talked about, dude, is like clearing out systems and creating a state and a nation that's healthy, and not just healthy physically, but also mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I think being a strong leader is a part of that, but it's just a skill that's housed in a part of the brain that you don't have access to if you're stressed out.
Yeah. It's actually crazy how many people think leadership is all mindset.
Yeah.
When really in reality, the brain and the body are kind of running the show, right?
100%.
So here's a buzzword: cortisol.
Yep.
The stress hormone, quote unquote. It's demonized a lot, right? But can you break it down, like how cortisol specifically sabotages our ability to lead, make decisions, and stay resilient? And is there even a benefit to it? I don't know. I'll let you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll work in reverse order. So cortisol, So we got to remember, like, God designed our bodies. He didn't mess up. So he didn't just be like, he didn't wake up one day and go, oh man, I shouldn't have put cortisol in there. for them to
a little
release
too much salt.
He's like, I messed up that part. I don't know what I was thinking when I dropped cortisol into their systems and the ability to release it. Like, that's not how it works, right? So everything we're given is for a reason, right? That's number one. So that's important to understand. But cortisol is designed, there are a number of functions of it, but one of the biggest things it does, it puts sugar in the bloodstream. So if we are cavemen and we have to fight or run away, sugar gets dumped into the bloodstream. It's going to give us the quickest, easiest energy possible. So we have it to use immediately, not break down fat into sugar, not break down protein into sugar, but use it instantaneously to be able to fight or run away. It just gives our body more energy. So genius design, right? And but the problem is that, and like these are Harvard studies. This is not me just making this up. So you go look these up. But Harvard's done 3 studies, probably more than that. But what they find in all 3 of these studies is that cortisol and testosterone are inversely linked. And so what they're finding is that if you have high levels of cortisol, you're going to have low levels of testosterone. So testosterone is a sex hormone, but it's also a hormone of motivation. And so their studies, this is both men and women, by the way, not just with men, is that when people have lower levels of cortisol, a couple of things, they're actually, 1, better leaders, and 2, they find that they're perceived by other people as better leaders. So it's like just based on perception, right? And we could, if I won't go too far down the rabbit hole in that, but I think there's an explanation for it too. So from the science perspective, this is kind of what happens. The body, when we have a stress, it releases cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. Cortisol is what we'll focus on. But testosterone is a sex hormone. So we don't need testosterone. We don't need our sexual function. We don't need that drive in a time of stress if a bear was going to attack us. So we shut it off. And so that's kind of the physiological, I'm giving like high level. But if you're fighting a bear, you don't need it. Like, you just need to either kill the bear or run away from it. There's no in between. And so testosterone is much a build up hormone. But if we're on defense, if we're in safety mode, we don't need to be in build up mode. And it's like driving your car with foot on gas pedal and brake pedal. We don't need to be in both at the same time. So if we have stresses, which if you're a business owner, you do, if you're a living human being that looks at any computer screen or cell phone screen or is in the vicinity of Wi-Fi or EMFs or whatever, all of those things are stresses on our system, but we don't fight or run away from them. So the brain will continue to drip stress hormones just to keep us safe and protected in case the threat shows up. So leadership is directly correlated to our levels of cortisol being released in the system or our levels of testosterone in the system. Harvard, that's Harvard stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And it's not just, high performers, right? This affects, parents, teachers, entrepreneurs, everybody.
Yep.
And you talk about, clarity in leadership. How exactly does an unregulated, we'll call it, nervous system cloud someone's clarity?
Yeah, so if we are releasing those 3 stress hormones, so cortisol primarily is going to turn off the frontal cortex or weaken the frontal cortex, and it's going to start to strengthen or grow the amygdala, which is a part of the brain that's responsible for like fear memories and worry and anxiety. So what happens is, in terms of clarity, like the part of our brain that's responsible for logic and rational thinking literally gets turned off by cortisol when we have a stress response. So from a clarity perspective, and I can give you an example of this too, from a clarity perspective, what happens is our clarity literally goes down because the decision to fight a bear is an irrational decision. So our irrationality, our clarity, our ability to make decisions, our ability to set a long-term goal, but then do the short-term things to stick with it, goes down every time our body releases stress hormones, because we don't need that energy in that part of the brain to fight and kill a bear. It doesn't lend us to safety or survival. So like when, we're taking care of a family and let's say the dad, who's the leader of the household, mom's like, he isn't showing up. He doesn't set any of his own appointments. He doesn't really help with anything around the house. He just kind of like gets home from work, turns on the TV, watches sports, veges out. And we start taking care of dad. And mom's like, you know what? Like, he'd offered to take the boys to school today. Or, he started playing with the girls again. And like these because they realize there's a level of clarity that comes where they're like, oh, I'm like sleeping through part of my life. And I lived this out real time when I was a teacher. So I can kind of relate to it too. But yeah, it comes down to, from a very neurophysiological perspective, what happens when those stress hormones, specifically cortisol, dampens the frontal cortex and then ramps up the amygdala. Yeah.
So when you adjust the nervous system and, really restore proper communication is what it is really. What shifts do you most often see in people's leadership or personal power, we'll call it?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that people start feeling a sense of safety to do things that they used to think were scary. So, if man, there's so many places. I love talking about entrepreneurs. One, because I am one, but I think it's a place that's kind of I don't want to say untapped, but like people are looking there for the wrong reasons. But I just think about, again, that ripple effect that a good entrepreneur has on a team and how they impact families and whatever. So I get passionate about it. But an entrepreneur who's not clear is their leadership literally suffers. And so a lot of times what we'll see is like the thing that they knew they needed to do, but just couldn't get themselves to pull the trigger on, they start doing those things. And it's like, if the business grows, the team grows. The team has to. And so where things used to be scary, they become not scary. And again, that goes back to the explanation I just gave of if we shut off the amygdala and we start to strengthen the cortex tells our brain, it's like, hey, it's safe. We actually don't need to be fearful that's not going to go through. Or even if it doesn't go through, it'll still be a win because I learned something new. So these are just skills and patterns of thought that happen within the brain, but they're literally negatively affected by the frontal cortex.
Right.
If it's weak.
Yeah, no, totally. And so the brain, the body, leadership, I think we made a mistake here, by the way, Dr. Daniel, because we should have done the whole show on this, man. There's a lot. No, seriously, dude.
There's a lot.
So I think the next time we get together, we just got to dive even deeper. So we'll pick a topic and instead of trying to, cover all these different things. But I'm going to throw a challenge question at you to kind of end this part of the conversation. Yeah. If you had to summarize it, what's the biggest invisible cost of a subluxated nervous system that most people don't even realize they're paying?
Yeah, I would say for the individual, it's them not living out the potential that God created them with. Like, dude, I wish people would understand what we have within us.
Yeah.
And like, if you're subluxated and your nervous system is stuck in a stressed out state, you're not even scratching the surface of what you were created to do. And I truly believe like God put a calling on every person's life to do something great and amazing and contribute to this world and shine their light. But I think the hidden cost is that people don't even realize that they're not shining their light. And then they walk through life feeling stuck, just not knowing that there was an option to literally awaken them. And it's not because any chiropractor is special. It's because that's how they were designed physiologically. But we can't do it in a stressed out state. So it's that not walking in purpose.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Total
sense. Love that answer. So, a lot of people think of chiropractic as just neck pain, back pain. Can you break down in plain language how chiropractic care impacts stress, like physiology and performance, like way beyond pain relief?
Yep, for sure. So we know that movement. So this is Roger Sperry in the 80s found that, and he won a Nobel Prize for this. 90% of nutrition and stimulation to the brain comes from movement of the joints of the spine. So if joints of the spine are not moving well, that is going to create a subcortical or low-level stress response in our system. I won't get into all the physiology of it because I know that's not where you want me to go, but just know there's a specific science to it. So movement of the joints of the spine gives the brain nutrition and stimulation. So if you thought of the brain like you thought of your biceps, the only way that it gets a workout is if you go and lift the weights. But the biggest way to lift the weights is literally moving the spine. So this is what chiropractors are doing, dude. We're moving joints of the spine and we're strengthening the part of the brain that's responsible for focus, that's responsible for clarity, that's responsible for emotional intelligence, for grit, willpower, determination, creativity. It also modulates the pain response as well. So this is why we help with pain. But I think like if you can't draw someone to the fact that like, hey, maybe if you knew how many times, I can't remember if I shared this on the last episode, but like on our paperwork, when we do reevals with people, I hear God's voice more clearly. I feel more connected to my family. My wife and I's relationship has changed. Dude, it's no coincidence, because it's like all of those skills, same skills that I talked about in the beginning, are housed in the frontal cortex.
Yeah.
And so that, like, big picture, that's what we're doing chiropractically. We move joints of the spine. That's how the brain gets 90% of its stimulation or 90% of its workout. And so if we keep the joints of the spine moving properly, which would be where I add that word for what Roger Perry's research says, we move the joints of the spine properly, and like, dude, literal magic is possible. But it's not magic. It's just how we were designed.
Yeah. It's like, imagine having an engine that's always running too hot, right? Eventually, it's going to break down, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with our brains, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I like how I tell people, and especially in my office, I'll say this is like, if you drove your car all day long with your foot on the gas pedal, stress, and on the brake pedal, rest and digest, the problem is that you're not going to go very far. You're going to wear out the brakes. You're going to wear out the transmission. You're going to run out of gas. Like, you're going to break the whole system down. So we have to either take our foot off the gas or take our foot off the brake, one or the other.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's the analogy, dude, is like we stop breaking down when we stop trying to run both at the same time. Yeah.
No, it makes total sense. And I know you touched on this a little bit where you said, when with the re-evals, you're, some of the things that you're hearing people say is, I hear, God more clearly, better relationships, all that. But so when someone starts getting adjusted regularly, what changes might they notice first outside of, pain relief or whatever, but maybe in their mood, energy, focus, and maybe a specific example of that?
Yeah. So the one that comes to mind based off of, and I have so many of these, I share them with the team like every day, but so I have a kid right now he's like pretty skeptical. He's young. He's 23, I think, getting adjusted. And his first thing, he came in because he had knee pain from playing basketball. And so we're adjusting him, and he's like, dude, I am having dreams, like the most vivid dreams I've ever had in my whole entire life, every single night after getting adjusted twice a week. So he's like, why is that the case? Well, he's just getting deep REM sleep now, where his body wasn't getting into that deep, because stress hormones keep us awake and keep us alert. So it always goes back to the stress hormones, right? So that's an example. Better mood for sure. I've noticed a lot of people, they're like, the best way they describe it to me is like, I just feel like a weight's been lifted, or like I feel like the fog's gone. And I don't know that. Yeah, man, that's kind of, it's hard to explain, but that's like, when people say that, I'm like, we're on the right track. That's perfect. I don't even know what that means for you, but we're on the right track. It's like the fog's gone and the weight's been lifted.
That's awesome, man. So you're a huge advocate of helping families in general, right? Mm-hmm. Not just kind of high level professionals and,
Yeah.
And let me ask it this way. Why is it so critical that kids, parents, everyone taps into this kind of care early on?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that if there's two ways, like people, the conversation comes up, nature, nurture. But I think that when we're adjusting kids, we're setting them up to be successful later. Like we're affecting the part of the brain that's responsible for the success skills. So by default, we have to be setting them up for success late. Like it just has to work that way, which I see all the time with families who are like, dude, I've had my baby adjusted since they were born. And now they're 5, 6, some of these kids are 5, 6 years old. And they're like, I don't understand. Like, can you explain to me why all our friends' kids are sick all the time? Or like they're having difficulty reading or difficulty with language, or they're hurt all the time. And they're like, my kid is just crushing it. And if you knew the amount of times I heard that, it's like, it becomes where it's not like just that one kid, it's all over. So for kids, I think it's most important to set them up from first breath to be healthy forever. Yeah. But we live in a sick care paradigm that says, well, like nothing's wrong unless there's something wrong. But I can attest, like, I'll talk about my aunt for a second. They found a stage 4 tumor in her brain 2 weeks before she passed away. And she had no symptoms before that. So it didn't just go from 0 to stage 4 in 2 weeks. She had this growing for years. But if we live in a sick care, there's no symptoms paradigm, that's the result that we get. So for kiddos, I know that's an extreme example,
No,
but
no, I get it.
that like we're setting them up so they don't have to deal with this stuff later, right?
Yeah.
For parents though, I think it's cool because like we know, I see it time and time again with families who show up well for their kids. The kids are different and they're less stressed and they feel more connected and they feel safer. And then how are those kids going to show up one day when they go to run the world that you and I aren't going to be able to run anymore? Is like, of course, I would want the whole family adjusted because if that family produces healthy fruit, they will pass that on to the next generation.
Yeah. Let me kind of, we're getting through this fairly quickly, which I love because it's concise and it's good information. But I'm going to close this section out with another challenge question.
Yeah.
More of a myth buster question. If you could bust one major myth about chiropractic care, kind of wide open, what would it be?
I mean, the one that you already said, it's for neck pain, back pain, and headaches. It's so not true. And like, you look at the foundation of it, like you can read BJ Palmer's work and look at, he's talking about like, we can change the mental health of a state, of a nation, of a family. Like he's talking clearing out prisons and mental institutions. And like, this was never meant to be about neck pain, back pain, or headaches. So, and I think if people don't know the roots and the foundation of it and what the heart was there, sometimes we get mixed up in like the insurance game and like insurance only pay to get somebody a pain and the Medicare and all those stuff. That's that's where it gets met. Yeah, I know. So like, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but dude, the myth is like, it is for success. It is for humanity. It is for creating a world that I'm unapologetically like, it is the best thing we could do to leave the planet better than what we found it.
100%. And that kind of leads us into, sorry, did I cut you off?
No, not at all.
Oh, it leads us into kind of shaping the future leaders, right? And changing healthcare. That's kind of where I want to take this conversation right now. And you mentioned, you already said it, right? We're kind of like in this sick care, environment, we'll call it, right? All our communities are really wrapped around that. And looking at where healthcare is really going, right? Sick care versus proactive care. Where do you see chiropractic fitting into the future of, leadership development, family health, even education?
Yeah, I mean, my hope is that it would be the number one for all of those things. Now, the reality of that, I don't know, we just need more of you and me. We need to multiply and clone ourselves and have a bunch of us 100%. Like in every state doing that. You know what I mean? But that's a whole, so like, dude, it's not a coincidence that a guy like Tony Robbins or like every NFL team, like they all understand that this is about something more than just like get me out of pain. Cause they know that like that NFL player or a pro basketball player, like they're an investment. Tony Robbins, I know I've worked with some of the people who have taken care of him in the past, and the chiropractic care that he gets, he's not getting it because he has back pain. He's getting it because he understands that there's a level of performance that comes with having a clear, healthy brain. So that my hope would be that the future looks something like where we're not just the standard of care for back pain, that we have to get referred to a chiro before we prescribe pain meds, but it would be like mental health issue. Oh, we should pair chiropractic with therapists. Oh, instead of school nurses who are going to give our kids ADHD meds, why don't we get them adjusted in schools and help them process some of that stress and actually wake up the part of the brain that's responsible for learning in the first place? So clearly I like get fired up about it, but I think there are so many places, dude, that, I mean, I can't, like, could you imagine what it would be like if these massive corporations just had a actual wellness program that was like, hey, chiro comes in twice a week and all these people, like everybody gets adjusted.
It'd be amazing.
Insane.
It's wild because when you think about it, healthy nervous systems equal better communities in my mind, better families, better businesses. I see it in my own home, right? In my own life, in my own business, in my own interactions, in my mood. Like I constantly I'm seeing the benefits of it myself. And even if I start to lack in my own care, I can tell, I can literally tell and see the difference if I go too long before we're not getting adjusted or at least getting looked at or whatever. But what's one what's one small hinge that swings a big door when it comes to leading yourself better through chiropractic care?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. I think the big door would be this, right? Is that if people could just understand that if they're dealing or struggling with symptoms, it doesn't matter. It could be mood, it could be depression, it could be anxiety, digestive issues, pain, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If people could understand that those are normal, God-given responses to an abnormal amount of stress, the world would be a different place. There's too many people walking around going like, I'm broken and my doctor diagnosed me with this and now I have to carry this diagnosis. I'm like, dude, no, you don't. That's your body actually trying to do what it was designed to do to keep you safe and protected. And it will continue to do it unless you get your body out of a stressed out state. But you can't meditate your way out of it. You can't sit at the ocean and there's just so many things that you can't cold plunge your way out of it, red light your way out of it. So symptoms are normal to an abnormal amount of stress. And I would say the big door is that you're not broken. It's the effect of your system in a stressed out state. And we can reverse it, and we do. And I see it every day in my practice, and so many other chiros do. And it is literally life-changing.
Follow-up question for you here, because at least for me, my mindset was, well, if I know a lot of people think this way. And again, this was my mindset is, if I get adjusted once, I'm going to have to get adjusted for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
First and foremost, yes, you should be getting adjusted for the rest of your life. But, pulling away from that just a little bit, right? Because that's an easy answer. Yes, just get adjusted. I mean, you go to the dentist, right? A couple of times a year, right? Because you should at least. But this is even that much more important. Now, pulling away from that just a little bit, and this is to speak more to the mindset of, and again, something I used to struggle with up until like a few weeks ago, honestly, because I just walked through a coaching program with my chiropractor, a health kind of coaching program. I lost a ton of weight, which is awesome also.
Congrats, man.
Thanks. Appreciate that. But the mindset shift that I had there was, it's like if you make a mistake or if you don't do something that you've committed to do on a regular basis, you kind of give up on it and say, or like, let's talk about food. I ate carbs. I overloaded yesterday. Well, then the next day comes around. Oh, I messed up yesterday. I can mess up today. And then that's the chain reaction it causes. Whereas if we kind of look at the wider, bigger picture, right? The 0.5 lens on your phone where you can just kind of see the kind of a wider view of your life is, again, let's talk about food. Okay, you made a mistake yesterday. So what, right? Look at the week. Look at 2 weeks. Look at the month, right? And this is something that my chiropractor, Dr. Juan, by the way, is always telling me, listen, you don't need to get 100. It's not necessarily getting an A, or A plus, I should say, but let's try to get an A. Let's try to stay around 90. It's okay that you messed up. It's okay that you had a little too much sugar on this day, but let's look at the overall picture. And I kind of started applying that to so many other things, right? Because I started looking at my business. I started looking at my life outside of food, and when it comes to chiropractic care, just because you don't commit to, getting adjusted twice a week or once a week, or it shouldn't stop you from going back, because you still will benefit from it, right? Yep. If you end up going once a month, even though I recommend more than that, but even if you end up going once a month, you will still see a benefit from that. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I mean, I have this conversation pretty regularly, and I just say no one gets frustrated when their medical doctor is like, "Hey, you should take these blood pressure meds for the rest of your life," without ever telling you why your blood pressure is high in the first place. Like, just straight. No one said, "Here's the cause of it." They just said, "Here's the symptom. Blood pressure is high. Take these meds for the rest of your life." No one questions it. Yeah. But then, no one would be frustrated with the gym and be like, well, they just want me to come every month and pay a membership to go to the gym. Right. Yeah, you have to go to the gym if you want to stay strong. Yeah. So, the same thing, I went on this diet and I lost 50 pounds. It's like, but they just want me to keep on eating clean. And I shouldn't have to eat clean forever. My body should just be able to maintain this, no matter what I eat after that. Nobody has that mindset. literally with anything that is of value. Like nobody went to church one time and they're like, my life is completely saved. I should never have to go back again. Like, dude, I'm telling you, there's nothing that is worth doing that doesn't require a continual commitment. So when people say that, I'm like, the thing that connects you to God, the thing that you literally can't, you can live without a heart, you can live without lungs, you can live without a kidney, you can live without a hand, you can live without muscles. You cannot live without a brain. Like it's not possible. So why would you not take care of the one thing that connects you to life at the highest level? So I get fired up on that. And I think too, this is the other thing, is that people, like our brains are going to lie to us no matter what. And so what I mean by that is like, I have days when I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I could just not eat that. And it doesn't matter anyway, because like, I'm always going to look this way, or it doesn't matter anyway, because my business is always going to be this way, or my marriage. But it's like, dude, all you have to do is just realize that like, that's actually your brain lying to you. And if you know and understand that like God made you for more and you get that, then it just takes a shift in decision. Your brain's going to lie to you either way. So you might as well fill it with the good stuff instead of the bad stuff. Sure. Yeah. And so, you know, there's just so many places that I think somewhere, man, people have this misguided conception that like, oh, they just want me to come forever. I'm like, I want to come forever because I want to be optimal. I don't want to deteriorate like my dad did at 55 and then pass away at 62 and never get to see my grandkids.
Exactly.
So like, I know I'm being like a little bit harsh, but yeah. But that's the thing, man. So on that front, I think it's so crucial. And then, you know, you said something too that I think is important is you're like, you talked about the 0.5 analogy, which I think is such a great analogy when you zoom out on your phone. Yeah. But like really what people are doing, I stole this from a guy named Cole Taylor. He talks about votes. And so every day you're making a vote for one thing or another, right? And he's like, but when you start to stack enough votes, you can look at, okay, I had 2 weeks of really clean eating, but then I fell off for a day and had donuts. This was me on Saturday. And it's like, but all my votes are stacked on the other side. So like, I can just make the recommitment of like, I already have enough votes stacked up to say, no, that's not who I am. My identity's different. I'm a different person. And I think that's a big part of what chiropractic can allow you to do is have the willpower and control to literally start to make different votes. I am worth it. I am worthy of it. And make those different votes for yourself.
That's so good. That's so good. And that's the other thing that we kind of fall into. We kind of wrap our identity around the wrong things.
Yep, 100%.
And I talk to my kids about this all the time. And, you know, we make mistakes. We aren't the mistake. Yeah. And, you know, it doesn't define who we are, who God created us to be. We learn from them. And we learn from our life experiences. And you mentioned, again, kind of a extreme harsh situation where, you know, I don't want to be my dad, you know, starting to deteriorate around 55. And, you know, I'm 45 and I'm seeing that. Right. So I love my father. And honestly, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the values that he's instilled in me and for the blood, the sweat, the tears, the years and years of work that he put on his back to get our family where it is today. But honestly, I don't want to be where my dad is from a health perspective today. He's 72. He's not doing great. And he'll tell you the same thing. He doesn't want that for me either. But you know, growing up in a society where, again, it's this whole sick care thing, we need to shift away from that. Pills are not going to give you a better life. You know, focusing and being proactive in your healthcare and focusing on the things that matter. Like you were saying, your brain. You can live without a heart, but your brain, the most important thing that makes your body function the way it was designed to, that's what we need to focus on.
Yep.
So I love that. And I'm going to throw a challenge question here at you. And if you had unlimited resources to really revolutionize chiropractic awareness, like, you know, billboards, Super Bowl ads, anything, what's the one message you'd put out there? That was a big breath.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the one message, I think that everywhere advertising is telling people that you're broken and we can fix you. And everybody I work with, I tell them that's not true. Like, you are not broken. what anyone is experiencing, again, I said it before, is like it's a normal response to an abnormal amount of stress. So an example of this would be a silly example. If someone has a fever, again, God didn't mess up and go, oh, dude, how did I not think to like not build that into their system? No, it's built in because guess what? Just like you cook chicken on the grill, your body heats up to burn off bacteria. So it's an assist to the system. It's a good thing. It's good for you. It's normal. God built it that way. That's how it's designed. But we're taught like, oh, I have this symptom. We should take a medication to break it. And like, I know there's varying viewpoints and whatever, but to me, dude, I would just encourage people that you're not broken, because if someone thinks that they're broken, they trigger the same stress response that we are trying to turn off. Like for real. So when I had a guy yesterday and he's like, man, he's like, what did he say? I'm just so screwed up. My body's so screwed up. And I said, no, you're not. This is your body trying to protect itself. And we will unwind the system and we'll create safety and your body will let all this stuff go. But if you keep telling yourself you're screwed up, you're going to continue to manifest that exact physiology that will keep you stuck here. But that's every ad, dude. Most marketing is just pitching that you're broken and you can't do it on your own. So let me fix you. And your body has the ability to fix itself, but it can't do it in a stressed out state.
Yeah. And I actually say this all the time. So I'm as you know, I'm a huge advocate of chiropractic care, and there's not a person that's in my life that doesn't know that, right? Yeah. And that's one of the things I tell them, because they'll come at me with like, chiropractic care is not real, blah blah blah. And I was like, and they'll say things like, oh, they claim that they heal the body. I was like, let me stop you right there. They don't. Yeah. Actually, they don't. They don't do anything near that. What they do is, yes, I said do. What they do is they get your body back in alignment so that it could do and behave the way it was designed to behave. That's it. And that's the song I sing with every person I speak to. And it's unfortunate though, because it's hard to, unless they experience it for themselves. I'm going out on a stretch here, on a limb here, but it's kind of talking to somebody about their salvation. It's like, you need Jesus, man. But unless they experience God for themselves, there's nothing that you can say. So I challenge whoever's listening to this who hasn't been adjusted, give it a few adjustments and see how your body feels. And honestly, if you're going to the right chiropractor, you should really start seeing changes in your body, in your mood, in your movement, in your interactions within a couple weeks. Like, it shouldn't take that long if you're going to a nervous system based chiropractic care. Is what I should say. I wouldn't trust what I call the conveyor belt practices, and I'm not going to speak ill of anyone, because any adjustment will help the body. But any adjustment will help the body. Seriously, I'm not spreading gossip or anything here, but give it a try. That's all I can really say. That's all I can really say here.
Yeah. If I could just share a quick, so I have a guy, he's been with us 2 weeks. So he comes in and his complaint was like, why do you ask me all that? What do you need to know about my birth and paperwork? And he's pushing 60. I think he's 58. So, pretty wicked disc issues in his low back. His body he feels like an 80-year-old is a basic thing. The reason he came in though is like he has tendonitis in his elbow. And so we walk him through a process. So it's been 2 weeks. And he committed to us for 6 months. So 2 weeks. And he said to me on Monday, so this would have been a week and a day. He said, he's like, I'm hesitant to even tell you because I feel like I'm just making it up in my head. But he's like, dude, I'm getting out of bed like I haven't gotten up in like the last 10 years. Yeah, he's like, I'm just so not as stiff. And he's like, my mood's better. And my wife notices. So his wife starts. So she's a week under. And she's like, all my stuff that I've had for the last 3 years in my hip is gone in yoga, like completely gone in yoga. And so, but this dude is like the skeptic of skeptics, where he's like, there's no chance that what you do could help me. And like you said it perfectly, dude. It's like unless you experience it, you have no idea what and I will be your biggest cheerleader to tell you that whatever you think you're stuck at, there's more for you. and it's already within you, and no one can implant it in you. It's already there. You just have to unlock it.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And after all these years of serving families, leaders, entrepreneurs, what's still the most rewarding part of this work for you?
I take it for granted often, but it's the ripple that we see in families. To give people, to have someone who's had depression their whole life say, for the first time ever, I feel like I had a good week. There's no financial reward could come on top of that. Like watching people just be restored to who they were designed to be and step into it is, and time, and it doesn't matter the age, dude, 80 years old, 3 years old, the potential that humans have is absolutely insane. But most of us are dealing with a fraction of it because we're not addressing the brain and nervous system. And like, I'm just so, man, I want to be a cheerleader for everybody out there. Like there's more, there's literally more. And you don't even, and that's what you shared it earlier, actually, because you were like, I notice when I don't get adjusted. You know why you don't know, why you notice? Because your body drops to like a 90%. And now you know the difference between 90 and 100. But most people are at 50 thinking they're at 90. And I'm like, dude, you don't even know what's in store for you.
No
idea.
Even with, great answer, by the way, but even with, so I also use a Deneroll.
Yep.
And even when I don't use that regularly and I'm still getting adjusted, like everything counts, right? Or if I'm just doing Deneroll and not getting adjusted regularly and so on. But the combination, like everything that you could do to really adjust your neck, your spine, anything that's where your nervous system is passing through, it is going to make a difference. Totally with that. And so I have two more questions. I have a question and then maybe a final challenge question.
Yeah.
But before I do that, where can listeners connect with you, your work at Nexus Family Chiropractic, or follow your podcast?
Yeah, for sure. So at Nexus Family Chiropractic is my practice. The other place and probably the easiest place to connect with me is at Dr. Daniel Kimbley. And man, just like reach out if you want to have conversations. Like I will DM you. Nobody manages it for me. I run it on my own. So I would love to have conversations. See if I can find, if you're listening somewhere else, dude, this is one of the things I've trained my team so well on this. If you're looking for a good chiro in your area, message us and say, hey, I heard you on the podcast and I would love for you to help me find a chiro in my area, and I will have my team do it for you. So you it's one of those things, dudes, that like I have people reach out all the time and they're like, I don't know where to go. I don't know how to find a good chiro. Well, I'll help you. So those are the two, Nexus Family Chiropractic or at Dr. Daniel Kimbley will be great.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So here's my last question before my final challenge question.
Yep.
For listeners feeling stuck, whether in leadership, health, or just life, what's one immediate action step they can take today to move toward a better future?
When you realize that you are worth the investment, like that, I could just stop there. Just realize that you're worth the investment. And it doesn't matter, the investment in going to the gym, the investment in spending time to meditate, the investment in putting down your phone or putting down your work and spending time with your kids, like whatever, the vacation, going to pay a chiropractor to adjust you. I don't really care what it is, but so many people are just like, like I have all these other things to do, and they put themselves on the back burner, but like you're legitimately worth the investment in time and energy and money and all of it. I would say that's the first step, is just if we could switch that mindset to just feel worthy, dude, that's the best start. Because everything else will come on the other side of that.
It's a simple concept, really, kind of really seeing that you are worth it and worth the investment. Like you look at a house, right? You put a ton of money into a home because it's worth it. You put a ton of money and you invest a lot of money into a business because it's worth it. Well, if you weren't there to do any of that stuff, what's it really worth?
Yep.
So it starts with us. So I love that answer. Okay, and here's your final challenge question.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go.
If you could leave every listener with one leadership principle rooted in nervous system health, what would it be?
The leadership principle would be this, is if you can help the people on your team achieve their goals, you will for sure 100% achieve your goals.
Love that. Oh, wow. I'm
Yeah,
letting
dude.
that sink in for a second.
This is new to me, but think about it. So there's a couple of things. So like, I know that may not seem like it ties to the nervous system, but you have to care about other people. And if you're in stressed out state, you don't care about other people. You just care about survival. So
That's so true.
if you care about other people and them achieving their goals, and I think about my team, and I just asked them to do this. I'm like, hey, give me your 5-year goals, because where we're going, I want to help you achieve all those. But if I can help them achieve some of those now, there's no question that they're going to be like, dude, I'm staying with him. I'm going to give more time. I'm going to put in whatever I want to see the vision for Nexus and what all we're doing on the podcast side. Like they want to see it all grow because I'm invested in their goals. So it's like but that requires you to have a clear system to even care about other people in the first place, to have the capacity to do so that you're not burned at both ends. So dude, help other people achieve their goals and they'll help you achieve yours for sure.
Love it. Yeah. Love that. Thank you, Dr. Daniel, again for coming on the show. And there will be a three-peat because I'm going to ask you again. I promise you that. This has been amazing, enlightening. But the next time, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into one topic so that we can really, really, really digest and dissect that information that you have for us.
Cool. I love it, man. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So that is a wrap. For today's episode of Beyond Adjustments, the podcast that believes adjusting your spine is just the beginning. We're here for adjusting your mindset, your leadership, your whole life. Massive thanks to Dr. Daniel Kimbley for dropping some serious clarity bombs. Like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who's one adjustment away from unlocking their full potential and essentially unblocking all the waste that just doesn't need to be there. Until next time, adjust your mind, adjust your body, and keep chasing that best version of you. Cue that outro music.